Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Fusion deck user in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reincarnated in Marvel as a gamer? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 281, Fizbo Part 2. Edward POV. After getting out of the car, Amy and I walked towards the rock climbing area, leaving the presents inside for now. I was trying to avoid stealing the spotlight from Luke, that's why I disguised myself as the magician. It was Luke's birthday party, and he was supposed to be the center of attention. Edward Newgate is the most famous person within the group of 7 to 18-year-olds through a recent poll, so showing up as myself would definitely steal the spotlight. Even though Luke wouldn't mind, I'd still feel uncomfortable if I ruin his party. AAA, I practiced to change my voice. I added 2 pitches higher to my normal volume, and added in a little bit of bass. I was also sporting a blonde wig and a fake mole on my chin for good measure other than my magician costume. Part of me was curious to see if anyone would recognize me like this. Amy, in her shiny sequin vest, looked uncomfortable as she followed me. She grabbed my coattail and stopped me. "Are you sure this is a good idea? I'm just meeting these people today." I smirked, turning my disguised face behind the masquerade mask to her. "Don't worry, just follow my lead. You're usually pretty good at creating chaos, don't get cold feet now." Amy grumbled, "I guess I can. My sister isn't the only actress in the family. I'm even better than her at acting. But I don't want to act in your shows though." I scoffed, "And I don't even want to hire you." She gasped offendedly and kicked my shin. However, her feet missed as I lifted my leg up, which made her almost do a split on the concrete. "Ow!" she exclaimed as she grabbed her inner thigh, face contorting from the pain. I chuckled and mumbled, "Dumbass." As we reached the rock wall, I saw Luke climbing the wall, and Phil waiting for him on the ground. As Luke reached the top, Phil shouted encouragingly, "Great job, buddy. Now comes the fun part. Rappel down." Luke hesitated as he turned to look at the ground. "It's really high." Phil pointed his finger at Luke and said, "You have nothing to fear but fear itself." He turned to the floor and whispered, "And the concrete." Amy and I almost burst into laughter when we saw it. Phil turned to Luke again, "But I'm right here, buddy." He raised his arms up, getting ready to catch Luke. "Okay, just catch me," Luke said before he jumped down the ropes. Suddenly, a fat clown appeared beside Phil, prompting him to retreat quickly in fear. Luckily, the staff for the rock climb was alert at all times, and he made Luke descend by himself slowly. Phil's commentary. I am brave. Roller coasters? Love 'em. Scary movies? I've seen Ghostbusters like 7 times. I regularly drive through neighborhoods that have only recently been gentrified. So yeah, I'm pretty much not afraid of anything. Commentary ends. Cam, as Fizbo the clown, entered the party merrily and said, hey, everybody. Quit your clownin' around everybody. That's my job." Cam chuckled like a clown, and danced a bit. The kids who saw him ran towards him immediately, cheering at the same time, including Luke. Phil froze and had his back behind a bush as he stared at Cam while breathing heavily. Phil's commentary. Except clowns. Never shared that with the fam, so, shoo. Phil gestured to keep this a secret and added with a fake smile, "Do have an image to maintain." I am not really sure where the fear comes from. My mother says it's because when I was a kid, I found a dead clown in the woods, but who knows? Phil's commentary. Cam walked to Luke and said gleefully, "Hey." "Oh. Well, you must be the birthday boy." "Wow. Is that you, Uncle Cam?" Cam laughed like a clown again and said, "No. I'm Fizbo the clown." "I don't know who this Uncle Cam is, but he sure sounds handsome, doesn't he?" "Hey, who likes balloon animals?" The kids shouted at the same time, jumping and raising their arms up, "I do. I do." Phil chanted at the side, "It's just Cam. It's just Cam. It's just Cam. It's just Cam." Mitchell, who followed Cam from behind, walked to the party carrying Lily in the car seat and saw Phil glued to the bushes. He asked concernedly, "You all right?" Phil snapped back to reality, "What?" "Yeah. Just have kind of a complicated relationship with clowns." Mitchell said, "Well, join the club." "I'm going to go." Before Phil could run away, I stood in front of him and said, "Greetings, Muggles. I'm Ed Atlas, the Magnificent. A magician." I bowed slightly, tipping my magician at him at the same time. Phil's initial fear dissipated quickly, and he broke into a grin. "What? I didn't hire a magician?" Phil and Mitchell couldn't recognize me, which made me grin. However, Lily, the toddler, was eyeing me suspiciously, which made me gulp my saliva. "I'm here for Luke Dunphy's birthday party. Am I in the right place?" I pretended not to know them as I asked the question. Mitchell was a bit skeptical and asked, "It is, but who sent you here?" "Oh, I'm hired by Mr. Newgate," I replied with an innocent look. Phil widened his eyes in excitement and said, "Edward hired you?" I shook my head, which made them disappointed. Then, I replied, "Mr. Theodore Newgate hired me." I widened my eyes and said, "Wait, is Theodore Newgate Edward Newgate's family? That old grouch?" Mitchell chuckled, his initial wariness had gone away as he saw my reaction. He said, "Yeah. It's pretty shocking, right?" Phil cleared his throat and said, "Okay, Atlas, even though you're hired by Ted, I need to assess your capabilities first. You might not know this, but I too dabble in the mystic art." My empty right hand went behind my ear, and I pulled out a teddy bear from it. Phil widened his eyes and exclaimed, "How? A magician never reveals his secret," I said as I gave the teddy bear to Lily. She burst into laughter and hugged it tightly. "So, can I set up my stage now?" I said as I turned to the duo. "Why, yeah, of course. The thing is, I promised Jungle Tanya to give her some time to get ready." "You can go after her," Phil stammered before he agreed. "I don't mind that," I said casually. "Can we have some cakes though?" Amy blurted out. Phil smiled and said, "Of course. We already cut the cake." Wait, Atlas, I see that you didn't bring many tools for your trick." "I have some in the garage. Do you want to use that?" "Oh, I'll take a look, after we eat the cake," I said assertively as I knew Amy was pretty hungry. Phil smiled in understanding as he too saw Amy's frown and said, "Okay, let's go in first. I'll show you where the cake and the stage is." We walked in front of the bouncy castle, but the crowd of husbands gathering there made all of us curious, so we stopped to take a look. Jay also came out from the house, having the same reaction as ours. "Oh hey guys, what are we watching?" he asked happily as he saw the dad's crowd. His eyes followed their gazes, and found his new wife, Gloria, jumping up and down the bouncy castle. "Ah, geez, Gloria!" Jay exclaimed immediately. "Jay, look! I go high! Look! Look!" Gloria shouted cheerily as she jumped. The figure of her bouncing there was mesmerizing for all the men. Jay grumbled and scolded the dads, "Guys, hit the road. Come on. You're family men. Come on. Scat." He chased them away angrily, however he soon saw Phil and I. Not you too. He scolded Phil. What happened? I couldn't even see it yet? Phil replied honestly. A tall father was blocking his view beforehand, so he missed the sweet scene. Jay's gaze stopped at me, and his eyes narrowed in suspicion. I smiled innocently and asked, "Are you the patriarch of the family?" "No. I am." Phil quickly turned to me and clarified. "What?" Jay became confused, and his suspicions of my identity were gone. After the initial introduction by Phil, Jay asked me, "Kid, how old are you?" 16, and my cousin here is 12. I said as I pointed to Amy. "I'm 14. Amy corrected me angrily and tried to hit me, but I grabbed her head, stopping her from reaching me. "Can we hurry? The little beast will become much angrier the longer she's kept hungry." Jay chuckled and said, "The cake's inside." Finally, we got some lunch. There's a lot of food there inside the house, and I picked up a slice of fruit. Haley was standing near the food stand with Alex, watching Jungle Tanya doing her show from afar. We're going to start the show. Where is the birthday boy?" Tanya asked around, but the kids there also didn't know where Luke was. Manny, who was sitting on the sofa with Bianca Douglas, the girl who has a crush on him, volunteered, "I'll call him." "Manny. I'll come with you," Bianca said before she followed Manny with a giggle. Manny's commentary. I had a crush on her, so I tried out Ed's advice in talking to girls. It worked, but right now, I feel smothered by her clinginess. Maybe I should get a new one. The slimmer, broccoli-haired Manny said smugly. Commentary ends. I smirked as I saw Alex and Haley, intent on teasing them while in disguise. "Oh hey Ed," Haley greeted coyly. "You finally here, Edward," Alex grumbled and scoffed. I was confused and froze in my steps. "Wait, how did you guys know?" I asked, befuddled. Haley and Alex giggled, and then Haley greeted Amy, "Hey. It's nice to finally meet you." They held each other's hand and jumped giddily. I was shoved to the side, and I took the chance to ask Alex, "How?" Alex knew what I was referring to and said, Amy is friends with Haley on Instagram. Haley saw her story that you guys are coming here together, so we know." "Ah, I see." And here I was thinking that she could recognize me no matter who I'm disguised as. The moment is less special now. Haley heard my words and stopped jumping. She looked at me coyly and said, "I'd recognize you anywhere. Only idiots won't notice this is you." Alex also laughed at the statement as she agreed with Haley. "Your dad and your Uncle Mitchell didn't recognize me," I said, stopping their laughter abruptly. I added, "Even your grandpa didn't recognize me." Alex widened her eyes and said, "Really? But it's so obvious though." Haley nodded in agreement, "Yeah. It was so obvious." Speechless for a while, I asked astoundedly, "How is it obvious? Explain." Both girls just laughed without answering my question. Haley asked, "Are you going to perform a magic trick, Ed?" I sighed in defeat and said, "Yeah. But I lost a bit of my motivation now." Tanya placed the green lizard on Luke's head. The lizard stayed still on top of the curly hair, which made Luke smile in excitement. Tanya said, "All right, let's all give Luke a big hand for being so brave." Every kids there applauded for Luke. Luke asked, "This feels so weird. What does it eat?" Tanya saw the chance and said spookily, "Oh, just little boy brains." The kids burst into squeals and laughters before Tanya said, "Now, who wants to pet the lizard?" I accidentally said, "She's cute." It was awesome to see that she genuinely loves the reptiles instead of just using them for the show. Haley's smile froze, and her eyes narrowed as she turned to Tanya. I didn't realize it and said, "I'm kinda nervous now." Haley turned back towards me and said, "You've performed in front of millions of people. But you're nervous for a kid's birthday party?" "It's my first time performing a magic trick." "So yeah," I replied playfully. Haley asked, "Why magic though?" "It's kinda lame." "Oh, you have to ask your dad this question." I threw the blame to Phil without feeling guilty about it. Claire entered the house again from her arts and craft table outside, and saw Haley giggling when talking to me. Claire's commentary. Is she flirting with the magician? Has her standard fallen so low? I don't know why, but it looks like it's going to be troublesome. I need to separate them quickly. Commentary ends. Before Claire could approach me and Haley, Jungle Tanya said, "Now, for the next performance, the magnificent Atlas will show you guys the wonders of magic." Eh? That's lame. I'd rather play outside. Bianca Douglas whined. Manny also shared the same sentiment, but he said, "You should go out and play." I'm watching it. Then, I'm also going to watch it. Bianca said giddily before she hugged Manny's arm and rested her head on his shoulder. Manny's commentary. So clingy. He shook his head in disappointment. Commentary ends. I'm up. Kiss for good luck? I said as I pointed at my cheek. Haley blushed a bit and said, "It's just for good luck." She stood on her toes and gave me a peck on my left cheek. Claire gasped as she saw it. I walked in front of the crowd when Claire finally reached Haley. Wow, so unenthusiastic. I said the crowd, which earned me no reaction. I guess I understand. Magician is lame. You'd probably seen a lot of magicians at other parties before, am I right? Right. The kids answered me honestly. I nodded and said, "You guys probably got burned a lot, right? You were expecting a good show, but slowly, your hope that magic is really true had died out. You have been hurt so many times, but right now, you decided it's better to not think about it anymore." Phil, Gloria, Jay, Claire, Alex, Phineas, Billy, Enid, Jenna, Tara, Mitchell, Fizbo, Cam, and Lily entered the house one by one, and they stood amongst the crowd, watching the show. Is he talking about magic or his relationship? Jenna scoffed at my opening, not knowing that it was me underneath the mask. Well, today, I'll try my best to make sure that you'll all believe in magic again and not just be muggles. But the props are tweaked. We all know that. Amy shouted with a cupped hand from afar. Everyone nodded as they heard it, while Phil turned to Amy in shock. "Aren't you his assistant?" Amy shrugged and whispered, "He told me to do this." Phil gasped as he turned back towards the stage with a shocked expression. "He's going to Houdini it." "I guess that's true," I said as I pretended to be dejected. Then, I took off my top hat and said, "You guys probably have seen this many times. I mean, if there's a top hat, the magician is going to pull a rabbit from inside it, right?" "That's right/yes." The audience reacted in vigor. I nodded in understanding and said, "I mean, that poor rabbit. They were probably stuck inside the hat for a long time." Everyone nodded at my reaction. Well, I don't want to do that. So, I'm just going to set it aside and pick up some stuff from the table, I said, as I placed the hat on my left side, in the air. The crowd gasped as I turned my back on the floating hat. And when I turned, I grabbed the hat again. I found this water cup here. So I'm going to use that. The hat floated. Luke shouted in excitement. I looked confused and said, "It did?" Everyone kids nodded at me vigorously, even the adults were really intrigued by it. The crowd becomes bigger and bigger, filling the living room space. I mean, I didn't start my routine yet. I scratched my head in confusion, which made some of the adults laugh. But the kids thought I was being truthful and they tried to convince me. All right. I'm just going to set it aside for a second. With a flick of my wrist, the hat vanished in thin air. Whoa! Luke widened his eyes. Manny too was becoming more excited to see the show. Like I said before, you guys can make sure that I won't cheat in the performance. So does anyone have a scarf I could borrow? Here, I have one. Enid said as she threw me a wolf print scarf. I chuckled and said, "Everyone, thank the wolf lady." "Thank you, wolf lady." Every kid followed along. Hey! Enid retorted shyly. Anyone have a phone I could borrow? I asked again, and I got the iPhone from Phil. I told them all, well, do you guys believe me when I said, I can get this scarf to go through the phone, without it having a hole in the middle? Yeah, the skeptics scoffed at my words. Oh, you don't think I can do that? Watch this? I held the phone up high on my right side, and placed the scarf end on the middle of the phone. The crowd widened their eyes as they saw it moved into the phone, and came out on the other side. They exclaimed in amazement, and then applauded my performance. I stopped pulling the scarf halfway and said, but, that's still a little boring, right? Should I up the ante? Everyone nodded in excitement and said, yeah. Amy shook her head and said, he's just digging a deeper hole for himself. For my next performance, I'm going to need a deck of cards. Does anyone have a deck of cards? I asked sheepishly. Ooh. I have it. Phil said before he ran to the kitchen and got a new card from the cabinet. The show continued after I asked Luke to check the cards for any markings, even shuffled the cards for me to make sure that I didn't mark the cards. Before we start, this card doesn't give me a good vibe, so I'm going to rip it. I ripped the 8 of the diamond card into 4 parts, and placed it underneath a see-through glass, holding it together with a paper clip. Now, the thing about magic is, the closer you look, the less you see. So don't trust your senses. Shuffling the deck of cards using a spring shuffle technique, I grabbed a King of Spade card and showed it to the audience, or else, you're going to lose track of reality. With a simple turn, the card transformed into a Joker card, which awed the audiences. I giggled, breaking the serious atmosphere, and said, I'm just bragging. I can't do that yet. Everyone laughed honestly, and it made the show even more fun to watch. Now, for my first card trick, I'm going to show you the real possibility that we're actually living coexistence with another dimension. I called this, the opposite dimension. Now everyone, can you tell me what's the opposite of? I showed the back of the card, the color red? Blue? Manny answered in confusion. I nodded and said, yes. Blue. Now, do you believe me when I say, I'm borrowing this USB charger, first? I grabbed the charger from the desk and sat down on the desk, placing the charger cable in the middle of it. Now, through this ordinary cable, I'm going to show you the existence of the opposite world. Look closely and carefully, because it'll take a lot of energy for me to show the opposite world. I placed one card on the back of my hand that was holding the cable tightly, and slowly pushed it to go underneath the cable. It might seem that I'm crazy, but believe me guys. The opposite world exists. I added cheekily. As the card slowly passed the cable, the red color turned blue, and the card was split by half in blue and red color. The kids exclaimed in amazement, and I immediately stopped the performance. Whoa, did you guys see that? I asked in shock. Everyone nodded their heads obediently. That's the opposite dimension. I added before I shuffled the cards again. That's too spooky for me. I'm going to stop that now and focus on another trick. Phil chuckled and whispered to Jay, who's standing beside him, it's actually a pretty simple trick, but his execution is really flawless. Stop talking to me. Jay replied, still grumpy about Phil's action to gawk at Gloria before. Chapter 282. Fizbo Part 3 Final. Edward POV. For my next trick, I need a flashlight, just to be clear, a phone flashlight. I said as I took out my phone. The next trick showed the audiences how the card changes underneath the light, and the performances continued for a little while. Now, for my finale. I'm going to need a helper. Before I could finish, Gloria and Phil raised their arms and yelled, me. I looked at them in confusion and said carefully, it's Luke's birthday party, so I was thinking of getting him to help me. Both of them became dejected and looked incredibly pitiful. I chuckled and turned to Luke, alright, I feel bad. So not a finale then. My pre-finale. Luke, pick a number from 1T01000. 661, Luke replied with excitement. I uncapped a marker and wrote the number on the card, 3 of diamonds. Alright, 661. Wait, did you just pick the first 3 numbers of your phone number? Luke smiled and said, my mom's. I shrugged and said, should I get all the digits then? I'll keep that card and we can start anew with a new number. Everyone chuckled except for Claire, who looked at me with disbelief. Give me a color too, I asked Luke. Yellow, he replied. Alright, so yellow, 661. I wrote it on the 3 of diamonds card, and I turned to the audience. Now, you guys all saw that this card with the exact marking on it is unique. I couldn't possibly know what kind of answer Luke was going to give me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this card back into the deck, and I'm going to use this Joker card to try and find him. There were 2 Joker cards set aside from the previous trick, laid outside of the deck. As my hand slid on the Joker card, the Joker image on the card vanished. Pinching my fingers together as if I was holding the image, I said, I'm going to throw this guy into the deck, and he's going to find the marked cards for all of us. Wow! Luke and the other kids exclaimed as they saw the Joker was gone. I made a throwing motion into the deck of cards. Now, the Joker is going to work on finding the card, and if he did find it, he's going to signal us on it pretty soon. As I laid down all the cards on their back on the table, I searched for the Joker marked card, and found it. Here it is. Now, did it work? Did he actually find the yellow 661 card? As I flipped the card, it was the 3 of diamond with the unique marking on it. The kids burst into cheers while the adults gasped in amazement. Now that he has finished his work, it's time for him to rest, I said as I shook the card, and the Joker ink vanished. It returned to the empty Joker card before, making the kids burst into cheers of amazement again. As a magician, I shouldn't take too long to change in between the sets, so I continued even amidst the cheers. Now, that's supposed to be my finale, but as you guys were all so amazing, I will show you guys another sign of magic is real. This time, I also need a volunteer. The first one who came to the stage is it. Before I could even finish, Phil had already come to the stage. His actions made a lot of kids groan in discontent, but he ignored them all. I shuffled through the cards and said, "Tell me to stop." "Stop," Phil said hurriedly, and the shuffled stopped at the 8 of spades card. "Good choice. Now, what I need Phil to do is to take this marker, pick a random card, and draw a friend that would help us find the 8 spades cards." He picked the top card on the deck. I instructed him, make a simple face, with eyes, nose, beard, maybe a little bit of hair, and also a frown. Now, you guys might only see that Phil is drawing a cartoon, but what he doesn't know is that, with magic, the drawing is going to have a few of his characteristics, also it'll symbolize Phil's desire. As Phil was finished, he handed the card back to me. "We need a name for this cute guy, he's a little hairy, so, Oleg?" Everyone agreed with my suggestions. Alright, so Oleg is going to find the 8 of spades cards inside the deck. "Is it here?" As I cut through the deck, Oleg would appear on the top of it, making the illusion that he was traveling through the deck. "Wait, Oleg is smiling," I exclaimed as I cut the deck for the 4th time. He must have found the card. I grabbed the card and showed it back to the audience. "This must be it," I said excitedly before dramatically flipped the card. However, everyone exclaimed disappointment as they saw it was the 8 of diamond card instead of the 8 of spades. "Oh damn, did Oleg fail?" I said as I flipped the card back. "Wait, Oleg is gone." Everyone became excited again. I can't find where Oleg is now," I said as I searched through the deck. "Unless..." I acted like I thought of something, and glanced at the ripped-out card underneath the transparent glass on the table. Previous episode set up. Manny suddenly remembered something. 8 of the diamonds were ripped at the beginning. Everyone had the same realization as they heard Manny's words. Could it be? I said as I slowly took off the glass cup, and grabbed the card from inside of it. As I unfolded the card, it became the 8 of spades card, which made everyone burst into applause. "Good job, Oleg," I said to the smiling cartoon. Then, I pretended to hear something from him. You said that you had done a good job, so you want a reward?" "Well then, what do you want?" A day off to take a vacation?" Where are you going to go? Grand Canyon? The kids were amused by the conversation I had with Oleg. Then, with a flick of my hand, Oleg and the card disappeared. Alright then. Day off request approved. Everyone was curious to see where the card had gone. I raised my arms up to the crowd and said, everyone. Although Oleg is having a vacation, he's on the back of a card, so he cannot go far. He must still be here inside the party. The kids looked around excitedly, trying to find where the card had gone. No one can find him? I need to go home now, so I need him to be back. I said with some difficulty, which made the kids sympathetic to my plight. Gloria was so excited that her chest bounced, but then, she felt a sensation inside her undergarment. Confused, she peeked underneath her shirt. I told the kids, wait, can you guys sense that? That's Oleg calling for help. Phil's desire had overtaken him, and he had made a wrong choice. Gloria took out the card angrily and shouted, Phil! How dare you? What? Phil turned to her in confusion. Everyone turned to Gloria, and saw that she pulled out the card from her breast. Phil widened his eyes in alarm. Hey! I didn't put that there. I patted Phil's shoulder and said, but he's your desire. You created him. Phil looked at me with disbelief as I dug a deeper hole for him. Suddenly, I interrupted the clamoring and said, everyone. Do you believe in magic now? The kids responded, yeah. Now, it's time for me to leave. I said pitifully, which made the kids exclaim in unwillingness. Don't worry about it, kids, we're sure to meet again, as long as you guys believe. I threw the card deck into the air, making a card shower, and everyone looked upward. However, when they turned to the stage again, they realized that I was already gone. Amy went to the stage and said, everyone, there's a party favor given by Edward Newgate set up on the art and craft table outside. All of the kids should go there to take it now. Every kid cheered and rushed to the front lawn, together with some of the adults. Outside, the table was filled with inflatable dinosaur costumes. I couldn't buy only one of those, and the minimum order for a custom design was 100. So I bought 100 of them in multiple colors. The Ruby Costume Company bought the design afterward as it was a very fun costume, so I have no loss in that, only profits. Luke was the first one to get his costume. Put this on, Amy said. Then, she shook her head in realization, wait. Why am I working so hard as his assistant? Enid was blowing one of the inflatable balloons and heard it. She replied, "'Cause Edward asked you to." Duh. I wish he would ask me instead. Amy rolled her eyes at Enid. "You can do it if you want. I can give you all the credit." Enid's eyes lit up. "Really?" Amy scoffed in disbelief and looked at Enid weirdly. "No." Luke equipped his dinosaur costume, and he began roaring and running around the lawn, dinosaur style. Claire smiled widely and asked him, "You love it, huh?" "It's the best present ever. I always wanted to be a red T-Rex," Luke said before he bellowed out a roar again. Soon, the lawn was filled with dinosaurs who were bumping with each other. Manny, also in a dinosaur costume, had none of the excitement the other kids had as his girlfriend hugged his arm and said, "You got the purple T-Rex. This must be fate. Fate is being a bit stressful right now." Manny sighed. All of the kids were running around in costumes, creating havoc on the streets. Their inner animals were released, and no one cared about anything else other than destruction. Phil finally went out after explaining to Gloria and Jay that he had nothing to do with the trick. However, he still felt the need to grab me and explain. Claire looked at Phil with disappointment as she saw him coming outside, slightly shaking her head. He was helpless about it and defended himself. "I didn't do that. Atlas did. But, despite that last trick, he's actually quite great. I should give him some money and make him explain." Where did he go? He looked around, and I was nowhere to be seen. Claire also looked around and asked with a shaky voice, "Phil, where are our daughters?" Claire remembered what Haley said about slipping away to the bedroom to make out with her boyfriends while the party was on, and immediately rushed inside the house. Phil wanted to follow along, but he was soon ambushed by a group of 3 TRXs. Hey! He flinched as he tried to avoid them, which put him right in the zipline zone. Another dinosaur kid went down the zipline and crashed into him. Ow, oh no, the dinosaurs are taking back the Apex Predator title by learning to use tools, he exclaimed with a horrified expression. While he was down on the ground, Cam Fizbo peeked at his line of sight. The clown makeup looked horrid underneath the sun. With a huge grin, Cam asked Phil, "Are you okay, Phil? Something get you a little down?" Ah! Phil let out a blood-curdling scream before he punched Cam in the face instinctively. Cam was thrown to the back, staggered a few steps before he bumped into Jay, who was holding the crossbow, his birthday present for Luke. The crossbow misfired, and it penetrated the bouncy castle. The kids inside screamed in horror as the castle deflated itself. Everyone inside had to evacuate quickly. 10 minutes before, I was hiding in Haley's room after I disappeared from the crowd. No one is following us. We're safe, Haley said as she closed the door to her room. Despite seeming like there was only the two of us there, I could hear some rustling coming from inside the closet and smirked knowingly. I sat down on the edge of Haley's bed inside. That was really tiring. Haley giggled and asked, "How long did you practice for that?" "That was awesome, although it's lame." Lame? I looked at her with disbelief. However, I didn't lose my smile. "You're the only one who thought it was lame." She crossed her arms together and teased, "No. All magicians are lame." "Like your dad?" "Especially my dad," she replied assertively before she burst into laughter. I joined in and then, I teased, "And here I thought performing that will do something to you. Trigger your daddy issues maybe. You're the only one with parental issues here." She rolled her eyes and sat next to me. I nodded in agreement. "That's true." Haley chuckled for a bit and asked, "Did you learn any more tricks?" "I do. Like this, for example." With a flick of my hand, a pretty pink underwear appeared from out of thin air. Haley's eyes widened and she grabbed it immediately. "This is mine or from my closet. How in the world did you get it?" "I literally just saw you came in." "Really?" "Think again. Did you see seconds of me being here?" I asked with a chuckle. She thought about it for a while and guessed, "While I was looking for anyone following us?" "So in that split second, you decided to rummage my closet and take my panties with you?" "Exactly," I replied shamelessly. She smirked and said, "And what if I didn't ask you to show me a magic trick? Will you bring my panties home?" "Probably." I nodded easily, which irked her a little bit. I turned to her and teased, "Want me to show you the magic my fingers can do?" A loud thudding sound resounded from the closet, as if someone who was eavesdropping became agitated from my words. Haley stammered for a little bit and replied, "And no." Her cheek reddened and she avoided looking at me directly. I chuckled and whispered to her, "You realized I was talking about showing more magic tricks, right?" "Shut up. There's no way I'm ever going to make out with a magician. Unless they are really, really famous," Haley suddenly announced. I smirked and said, "No one said anything about making out." Haley was speechless for a second, and her embarrassment slowly turned into irritation. "Are you here to tease me? You can't even show your face here." She got up and stood in front of me before taking off my mask. "Oh, your eyes are very beautiful today. Are you wearing contact lenses?" she asked. I shook my head and said, "No. My eyes just decided to finally catch up with my other facial features, trying to get to the same standard." She rolled her eyes again before thinking about it and said, "That could happen." I looked at her with disbelief. I was joking. Still, she teased jokingly. I wrapped my arms around her and pulled her closer. She chuckled and commented, "By the way, you look good in blonde." "I look good in every color." While we were having a good time, Haley became irritated as she remembered something and asked, "Hey, did you grope Gloria's boobs while placing the cards there?" Incredulous, I answered, "What? No. I didn't even get near her." Then how did you place the card there? She demanded an answer. A magician never reveals. Oh. So you did put your hand in her clothes? Oh no. I didn't. Then, show me how you do it. Or else I'm telling Grandpa. She threatened me with a sly smirk. I chuckled with disbelief and said, alright, I'm going to show you once. But, I'm going to need more cleavage from you. Haley pulled down her shirt obediently and said, like this. I scrutinized it and hummed, I don't think it can fit, but I can try. Why won't it fit? She asked in confusion. Then, she realized it herself, oh, right. It's Gloria. The cards probably have a lot of space in there. I nodded in agreement with her. Haley pulled down her shirt more, showing half of her chest, bending over slightly and showcasing it to me. Is this enough? She asked with a playful smirk as she tried to tempt me, vying for me to be embarrassed or lose my concentration. However, our moment was interrupted by her mother. Claire opened the door abruptly, and her mind stopped working when she saw the sight of Haley peacocking her breast to me. Haley immediately pulled back and covered her shirt again. Moem. Can't you knock? What in the world are you doing, Haley? Claire started to freak out and yell at the both of us. With a magician? She asked with a tone of disbelief mixed with disgust. Haley stammered and said, at least he's not a clown. Dad's a magician too. He's not. I made him give up that dream. Claire shouted and grabbed my hand, also you. No one gave you permission to come to my daughter's room. She pulled me up from the bed and tried to push me out of the room. However, Haley grabbed Claire's hand with a horrified expression, Moem. What are you doing? I'm chasing him out of here. Sweetheart, I know you got your heart broken, but you should never date a magician. Claire scolded. I was laughing internally and agreed with Claire, yeah, Haley. No matter how much you want me and showing your body to me, pushing me down on your bed, I told you, I already have a girlfriend and I can't be with you. Haley. Claire looked at Haley in horror. Haley was flabbergasted, but her mind was focusing on another matter, you have a girlfriend. Not only that, she made her sister watch from the closet. I added, again. Claire was stupefied and she stopped pushing me. She went to the closet and opened it, revealing Alex and Phineas who hid there when Haley and I came to the room. Is the world getting sick? What kind of games are you kids playing? Claire panicked and became quite weak in the knee. I laughed out loud, which made everyone turn their attention to me. Oh, this is too cruel. I took off my blonde hair and said to Claire, also, you really can't recognize me when I'm blonde? I didn't even have a mask on. Claire was stunned, and she scrutinized my face for a few seconds. Edward? She called out with disbelief. Haley groaned, yeah, Mom. Do you really think that I was really going to make out with just a magician? I turned to her and said, oh, so you did bring me up here to steal my kiss. She blushed for a bit, shut up, that's not what I meant. Besides, Moem. Look. Alex is way worse than I am. She's already here for God knows how long. No, oh no. We didn't come here to make out. Alex stammered while Phineas was white as paper. Hi, Phineas. I greeted him with a slight wave. He smiled wryly and did the same, hi Ed. Good day? I asked. Not really. He replied. Sucks. I nodded in understanding. Haley, Claire and Alex looked at the both of us with disbelief. Then, I heard commotions coming from the front lawn. Alright, I guess it's my cue to go. I have to return to the filming set today. Haley, can you take care of Amy? Show her around? My dad will come pick her up later. Haley nodded and said, of course. I already talked to Tara. Thanks, cutie pie. I said before I grabbed her hand and kissed its back. Then, I turned to Claire, shoving Haley's hand away and speaking with dejection, oh sorry. You probably don't want her to get magician's saliva on her hand. Claire was feeling very guilty about the matter. No, you can kiss her if you want," she said without thinking. "Really?" I widened my eyes for a bit, wrapped my arms around Haley, and pulled her closer to me before giving her a kiss on the lips. Haley widened her eyes, while everyone was stunned. After I released her, I turned to Claire and said, "Thank you for giving me permission." "Bye, Edward." Haley grumbled as she knew I was teasing her mother and her. Phineas slyly gave me a thumbs up, and I walked out of the room in a hurry. Haley grumbled as I left, "Great. Now I won't know if he touched Gloria's boobs or not." She touched her lips for a second before she giggled, but forced herself to be angry again. "I'll make sure to see how he did it later," she vowed. Outside on the front lawn, as the chaos ensued, someone knocked over the beads on the art and crafts table, scattering it all over the cement. Luke was running around, and was slipping on one of the beads. Luckily, I passed by at the perfect time, and grabbed his dinosaur head before he fell badly. He still fell though, but this time, not enough to break his arm. "Edward?" He looked at me excitedly. "You came. What are you talking about? I was here the whole time." I put on the masquerade mask, which made Luke realize it, or probably not. "What?" He was confused. "Atlas, I was Atlas," I explained with a wry smile. "Ah." Luke finally understood it and nodded his head. As I got him up, I said, "I disguised myself to not interfere with the party. I have to go back to work now. Did you have fun watching my show?" "Yeah," he replied enthusiastically. "I love it." I smiled and said, "Happy birthday, Luke." "Thank you, Edward." He replied with an innocent smile and hugged me with his dinosaur arms. "I'm really glad you came." "That's what your sister said. Sorry about that. Tell your Uncle Cam that you hate clowns. Goodbye." "Bye." He waved at me with his dinosaur hand before he turned and slipped on one of the beads again. I grimaced as I looked at him, but he quickly got up, fixed his dino head and said, "I'm okay." I smiled as I left the party, waving at Luke from afar. "A lot has changed," I mumbled to myself before I checked my watch. "Damn, I'm going to be late for the film set." I rushed to my car and drove back to the company building. Chapter 283, Movie Poster and Reply Song Progress. Edward POV. "What kind of movie poster do you want it to be?" Judd Apatow asked me after I got back from the party. I looked at him in confusion and said playfully, "Aren't you the director? Why are you asking me?" He smirked and said, "We all know who the director really is. If you know how to do camera work, I think you'll even direct this yourself." "I'm really not going to do that," I replied with a grimace. He burst into laughter and patted my shoulder. "Let's go. I want to settle this and go back home for Thanksgiving dinner." Some people celebrated it late, or with relatives on the weekends, which gave me an idea. Maybe I should invite Sage and Mrs. Henderson for dinner with my family tomorrow. Better yet, I should invite all of my friends too. All right. I followed him from behind and saw the other main leads standing in front of a green screen. RG posed wearing a simple suit and EB wore a simple t-shirt and jeans. While they were shooting the pictures, I decided to open up the memory I got about 2023 entertainment landscape. I leaned on the wall on the back of the set and closed my eyes. This memory gave me the experiences in the movie theater, the marketing the movies had done, their success, and also the scandals concerning that movie's main cast members. Not only movies, I got some TV series too. It started from the movie Anyone But You, then it become Hitman, after that, it become Oppenheimer, and it continued until I watched all the movies that were released in the year 2023, movies that were watched by that ordinary guy. Barbie, Avatar, Ways of the Water, Guardian of the Galaxy, John Wick 4, The Flash, Dungeons & Dragons, Godzilla -1, Wonka, Super Mario Bros. Movie, Ghosted, Poor Things, Cocaine Bear, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Little Mermaid, No Hard Feeling, and many more. I digested all of them in just a few minutes afterwards. In that time, my facial expression changed greatly from frown to smile to amazement to frown to smile to amazement, until the memory finally ended. Still keeping my eyes closed, I suddenly heard a crunching sound from beside me. Slowly, I opened my eyes and turned to the source of the sound. There, I saw Pepper and Vanessa both staring at me while eating popcorn. "What are you doing?" I asked in confusion. With a mouthful, Vanessa returned the question back to me, "What are you doing?" Pepper nodded in agreement to her and added, "Your face kept changing like a Chinese changing mask show." "What in the world are you thinking about?" "Movies, I guess," I replied with a shrug. Luckily, whoever the guy I got the memory from was, he didn't have a strong personality, so I wasn't influenced in any way by him. Pepper and Vanessa glanced at each other before Vanessa turned to me. This movie?" I rubbed my chin as I thought about it. "We need to make some changes. Pepper, can you get Haley here and give me a few costume designers?" "Vanessa." She flinched a bit as I looked at her. I asked, "We need to make your hair fluffier." "What?" Vanessa touched her hair in confusion. I halted the poster shoot for a bit and made the actors get some rest while I worked on the design. I worked with the costume designers that evening, creating some outfits for the movie scenes and the poster too. The designers' eyes glittered when I gave them some designs from a decade from now. Although, they were all for the celebrities' characters in the movies. Wardrobe is another marketing strategy for a movie. Unique wardrobe can make the movie stand out. I told Pepper as he asked me why I was doing this. Finally, the design for the movie poster was done and the photoshoot resumed. Ryan Gosling, in his Ken outfit, a bandana on his head, sunglasses, and white fur jacket on top of his shirtless torso, looking haughty and cool. He was also clean-shaven for the shot, which made him look younger. He stood in front of Emily, Vanessa and I, looking directly at the camera while I looked at him with scorn, Emily with concern, and Vanessa looked at me while batting her eyes. I made temporary edits using Robin and printed out a copy of the movie poster. "Oh, it's kinda nice," Ryan Gosling said, still in his full Ken costume. "By the way, where did you get the idea for this style?" he asked with intrigue. "It's just at the top of my mind." I played it off and changed the subject. "It's not a real mink coat, so you can bring it home if you want." "Really?" His eyes lit up, but he suddenly deflated. "Nah, I can't do that. We may need this for the scene." Before the cast members left for the day, I stood in front of all the staff members for the movie, which had 200 staff members. The poster was printed onto a huge backdrop, bigger than my size, and the name for the movie was kept hidden by a black tape. "We have 75 days to complete the movie. I'm sure that many of you made the sacrifices to be here, even sacrificing your holiday traditions. I won't take your efforts for granted, and I promise that I'll give my best for the movie. On Monday, we'll officially start filming for the movie." The staff members cheered at the announcement. They were all looking at the movie poster in excitement, as from the posters alone, it would seem to be a pretty fun movie. Our creatives have finally come out with a name for the movie. From now on, the movie will be called, I took out the piece of paper with the movie's name on it and unfolded it. "Self-made," I announced, and 2 staff members took off the tape from the movie poster. The staff and cast of the movie applauded as they saw the full poster. As they clapped, some of them whispered to each other. Ryan whispered to Emily, "It's concise, memorable. That's pretty good." Emily replied, "It taps into universal themes of pride, responsibility, and the consequences of one's own choices. It's much better than Love Countdown or 90 Days of Love, 'cause that's pretty seasonal." Pepper grimaced and said huffily, "I wanted something more romantic." "Well, this is great too. But where's the romance?" Paige shook her head and said with a giggle, "The movie had passed the tropes of just romance a long time ago. Can't we just make a simple love story?" "I want to see a love story with Edward Appa as the protagonist," Sun-hee complained. Besides studying people's reactions, I also gave a thumbs up for the creative team who came out with the movie name. The creative team was basically Judd Apatow, Paige, Pepper, and myself, but this name came from Paige. For a Hollywood movie, simplicity helps in getting the prospective audience to remember its name. It also fits the theme of the movie, a protagonist who is the architect of his own downfall. When I got home, I saw my dad in the living room, watching TV with Frankie. This is a weird sight, I said as I greeted them. Me, watching TV? Frankie replied with a smile. I shook my head and said, no, not being jumpy when I walk in, which meant you guys weren't fooling around when I'm not here. My dad widened his eyes and replied with exasperation, when did this ever happen? You never caught us getting jumpy. I'm more famous than you guys, so people will believe my narrative instead of yours, I said with a sly smirk. Unless, you guys do something for me. So, this is a setup for blackmail. What do you want out of this negotiation? Frankie crossed her legs and interlocked her fingers on top of her knee. I shrugged and stayed in character, this is not blackmail. We're just talking here. What is going on? My dad was befuddled by the whole scene. Frankie turned to him and whispered, he's in character. For his movie. He finally understood it and turned to me seriously, there's two of us and one of you. Despite not being more famous than you, being your dad gave me credibility. You don't want me to share your childhood story to the press, won't you? You can try, if you even survive to meet the press then, I said with a chuckle. My dad has goosebumps, which Frankie immediately corrected him, we're supposed to be the innocents, not on his level. Why do you know more about the movie than I do? He asked Frankie in disbelief. Frankie shrugged and said, he told me a few things about it during our vacation. A bit jealous, my dad turned to me and said, tell me your condition. Simple. Let's have a Thanksgiving-themed dinner tomorrow. I want to invite my friends and teachers. That's it? Frankie asked, a bit disappointed by the request. What, do you expect a very unfavorable condition for you guys? I'm not a monster. My dad smiled and said, all right, Thanksgiving dinner, tomorrow. I'll text my friends and ask them, I said before I walked past them to go to my room. You guys can continue fooling around now. We're not fooling around in the first place, my dad retorted, which made me burst into laughter. He turned to Frankie and asked, is it me, or does his technique to piss people off gets better? I guess he's becoming a teenager. But it's scary, given that he's a very smart one. Frankie replied in agreement. Suddenly, there was a doorbell ringing from the front door. I stopped my steps before I could enter the room, and asked, Robin, who is it? Miss Hudgens. Robin replied. Should I let her inside? She's alone? I asked in confusion. Yes. Robin said. Confused, I paused for a while before I said, let her in. I want to see why she's here. My dad opened the door before Robin could do it. He invited her inside as he knew Vanessa as Maggie's friend. Maggie is going shopping with Amy and their grandmother. She won't be back for a while. Oh, that's fine, I'm here, looking for Edward. Vanessa replied shyly, and with pauses in her sentences. I waved at her from afar and said, here. We got into my room together, which made my dad and Frankie look at each other. Is he? My dad asked. Frankie shook her head, I don't think so, but I did convince him to date more people. Should we give him some privacy? Frankie looked at him with disbelief and said, no. Be a dad. Parent him. See, that's the problem. For a dad, I'm pretty proud, but parent him, Ted. Frankie said sternly. Oh. Edward. Don't lock the door. My dad shouted from afar. I can't hear you. I shouted back as I locked the door behind me. As I turned to Hudgens, I asked, why are you here? I'm not here to ask for the song or anything. She said suddenly. I'm only here because in the script, I'm supposed to be taking your blood pressure. I understood what she wanted before she even finished her words. She continued, so I'm planning on asking you to practice with me. Yeah, sure. We want it to look natural after all. I agreed easily. But, I'm going to write a song to reply to Taylor's song, so you need to do it while I'm doing that. I'm fine with it. She replied easily too. The blood pressure machine is in the cabinet by the kitchen. I told her. She was confused at first, then she asked, me? You want me to get it? I turned to her with a weird look on my face, yeah. Is there any problem? Nope. She said before she walked out of the room hurriedly. As she left, I picked up my guitar and sat on the edge of the bed. Now, how do I reply to her song? Seconds passed by quickly, and my fingers still haven't moved. Vanessa returned with the blood pressure machine after a while. Hey, I got it. I placed the guitar down and said, alright, let's do it. My dad peeked at us from the door as he was concerned when Vanessa picked up the BP machine. What are you guys doing? He asked. Playing doctor. I replied with a smirk. She's going to give me a prostate exam next. Vanessa slapped my shoulder in embarrassment and irritation, while my dad froze. He grimaced and said dismissively, well, I tried to parent. He left soon after. General POV. At Dunphy's house, after the guests had left, only the extended family stayed behind. It's already nighttime. Outside the house, the crew were taking down the zipline, the bouncy castle, and the rock wall. The lawn was filled with toys, water guns, balloons, and even dino suits. A lot of the kids brought the dino suit back to their house, and continued wreaking havoc there. Edward was cursed a lot by the parents, but at the same time, they were glad to see their children so happy unleashing their inner beast. Edward saved you from falling down? Phil asked Luke in confusion as everyone was near the kitchen. Jay, Mitch and Cam were by the dining table, and they turned to Phil. The ladies were in the living room, exhausted from the party. Was he here? When did he come? Phil questioned. Claire smirked and excitedly interrupted the conversation as she patted Phil's arm to gain his attention. She was standing behind Phil as she placed some leftover foods inside the fridge. Oh, he's been here since the beginning. What? Phil looked at Claire weirdly, with an expression that said he didn't believe her. Alex piled on the teasing, crossed her arms as she walked to Claire's side and said, Dad, try to remember. He's here. You even talked to him, you talked to him a lot. Phil's eyes moved quickly as he tried to remember. With a shocked voice, he guessed, Jungle Tanya? What? Oh no. Claire looked at Phil with exasperation. Alex said disdainfully, how in the world did you think he's Jungle Tanya? By using a hyper-realistic mask from the Nick Cage movie. Phil defended himself quickly. Cam, holding some ice to his face, already took off his clown makeup after Phil apologized and told him about his fear of clowns, stood by Phil's side and said, I'm with Phil. If Edward was here, we would have noticed him immediately. He's a hard guy to miss noticing. People will be all over him. Alex smirked, that's exactly why he's here with a disguise. Come on, you can do it. Luke joined Alex and teased, come on, you can do it. Manny stood by Phil's side too, he didn't come. He did. Luke started to argue with Manny. Gloria and Jay joined in the conversation. Claire turned to them and asked, do you guys think that Edward had come here or not? Jay said, he might be really good at not getting the limelight on him. I guess it made sense if he stopped by. Gloria immediately replied, he didn't come. Haley stood beside Claire and Alex, wrong. He did come. Mitchell brought Lily with him, and stood beside the opposition, he didn't come. Ed. Lily babbled, which made Claire take her from Mitchell, see, even Lily knew that Edward had come. Ed. Lily babbled again. It's 6-5. We won. Haley teased. Still, there's no evidence that he was here. Mitchell said with a smirk. It's just speculation at this point. Claire rolled her eyes and said, don't pretend you're a lawyer. I am a lawyer. Mitchell retorted incredulously. Cam interjected and said, like Mitchell said, we don't have proof that he's here. Luke said, he's here. He even said that he hates clowns. Already forgotten the lines Edward fed him, Luke guessed that was what Edward said based on the pieces he did remember. Cam gasped in humiliation, and his eyes became watery. I already got punched today, but I got punched in the gut again? Mitchell hurriedly comforted him. Gloria brought the topic back. If Edward is here, where did he go? He's at Haley's room, making out with her. Alex exposed. Haley turned to Alex in shock, while the others looked at her with intrigue. Ooh-hoo! Everyone exclaimed teasingly. What, you're the one who's making out with your boyfriend? He just kisses me to piss off Mom. Haley exposed Alex. We didn't even get the chance to be alone before you and Ed came. Alex argued back. Phil's eyes shook and he said, I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear any of that. My little angels would never. Alex and Haley felt guilty and embarrassed as they saw their dad's facial expression. Claire noticed the mood and immediately said, Edward was Atlas. Can you believe that? Oh my God, really? Phil immediately lit up at the news. Everyone who opposed shared the same disbelief and excitement. The only reason I didn't guess Atlas is because he's very good at magic. Edward barely learned it before. Phil added. Phil's commentary. Can it be that in a short amount of time, he becomes a top magician expert that can compete with the other big names in the world? He really is a prodigy in whatever he's doing. He paused as he fell deep in thought. His eyes lit up and he gasped, if someday people are going to write a memoir for him, I would become one of the first people who introduced him to the world of magic. Magic enthusiasts worldwide would thank me. Gloria's commentary. He's the one who put the card in my breasts. Commentary ends. Chapter 284, A Short Break. Edward POV. I scribbled on a piece of paper while Vanessa practiced taking my blood pressure. She struggled to unwrap the inflatable cuff, using too much force, which made her stagger and nearly fall. Oh-wee. She whined as she grabbed her shoulder. The sudden movement made her muscles hurt. I'm okay, she exclaimed hurriedly, her arms flailing before stopping abruptly. I looked at her in disbelief after a short awkward silence ensued. That's just the very first step. With a hint of self-deprecation, she replied, I know. I suck at this. Do I even need to use the stethoscope? Why should I? She touched the stethoscope around her neck and looked at me, seeking an answer. It's for listening to specific sounds called Korotkov sounds. It's an old method for assessing cardiovascular health, but you don't need to dive into it too deeply, I said dismissively. Then, I pointed at my inner elbow. When you place the cuff on me, make sure to position the stethoscope over the brachial artery in the inner elbow. That's where nurses listen for the sounds. I don't want you to make a mistake and have people think the studio has no idea what we're doing, even in something as simple as this. She rolled her eyes and said, Fine. I will try not to embarrass you. What else should I pay attention to my great master? I accepted her sarcasm and said, Change master to overlord. Come on, do it properly this time. Starting from the very beginning. After 10 tries, she finally managed to place the cuff around my arms in an acceptable way. While she was pumping the inflatable cuff, she stared at my arm and said, You have a really nice arm. Don't flirt. Practice. I said sternly before scribbling some notes onto my notebook. I'm not going to flirt. She said disdainfully. What are you drawing anyway? Who's that guy? Spider-Man? Oh, it's Deadpool. I said with a grin as I showed my drawing to her. It was the latest movie I had watched. Now, the song Bye 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 by NSINC has become an earworm in my mind. Confused, Vanessa asked, You said you want to work on your song. I am not. I said playfully. Vanessa groaned before she said, You know, this stethoscope is actually pretty loud. I picked the stethoscope head and flicked it twice. Vanessa was startled and she retorted, Hey! I almost got deaf. Talk about exaggeration. I pursed my lips and teased. Annoyed, Vanessa said, I think I have got the idea now on how to do it. I'll practice on my own. She grabbed her shoulder again, her face grimacing in pain. What's wrong with your shoulder? I asked with a slight concern. Huh? It's just tight from all the practice. It'll be fine tomorrow. You haven't practiced for a few days though. I gave you a break for Thanksgiving, remember? I exposed her lies. Vanessa was taken aback and she dodged my eyes. Narrowing my gaze at her, I asked, what did you do? I mean, I might got into a little fender bender, she said guiltily. When? I asked. She looked at me with a worried and pitiful expression. My heart skipped a beat, not because of her cuteness, but because of the sudden realization. When, Vanessa? Jay, just now. But I didn't hit any of your cars. Then, what did you hit? I asked, slightly agitated. The wall? I sighed and suddenly turned to the side. Robin, damage report. None, sir. The wall is still intact. Only her car bumper becomes slightly loose. Robin replied. Vanessa already knew about Robin's existence as she's always here. She defended herself hurriedly. See, I didn't damage anything. I sighed and said, you did. You damaged one of my important products. Sit here, let me take a look at your shoulder. I stood up from the bed and forced her to sit at my spot. She blushed a bit as I ran my hand on her shoulder. Luckily it's just whiplash. You'll be fine in a few days. Or, you can be fine tomorrow if I massaged it today. You want me to do it? Sure, nothing lewd, right? I don't want to be like Taylor. Vanessa teased. I smirked and said, yes, she did become infatuated with me, borderline obsessive, because of my massage skills. Take off your shirt and lie down on the bed. Vanessa was startled and immediately hugged her body. Hey! You said you don't need me to sacrifice my body. I looked at her with disbelief and said, for the massage you Dumbo. Ah! Vanessa exclaimed in realization before she became embarrassed. Pushing the paper away, I turned to her and asked, I'm going to have all of my friends over tomorrow for Thanksgiving dinner. Do you want to come? Vanessa laid down with her back bare, and she replied nervously with a blushing face, why do you want to make me come? You said this is a normal massage. I hand-chop her head, making her exclaim in pain. What do you have in your mind? I'm asking if you want to come to Thanksgiving dinner. Sorry, I'm nervous. She said as she hid her face in my pillow. It's just a massage. I said as I placed some lotion made from the alchemical formula I received on my palm. It's just, I heard crazy things about a UHM. She moaned instantly as I rubbed the lotion on her shoulder and pulled on her muscles. 30 minutes later, she became breathless, her hair unkempt, and her skin was glistening from the oil and sweat. I think I need a smoke. She said as she laid down casually on my bed, pulling a blanket to cover her body. Within seconds, she fell asleep. Maggie entered the room a minute later. Ed. What have you done to Vanessa? As she saw the sight of her friend on my bed, Maggie's face became flushed in anger. She stomped towards me and before she could accuse me of anything, I stopped her with one sentence. My clothes. Maggie froze in her spot and her anger dissipated. She immediately smiled and asked me properly, Ed, what are you doing with Vanessa? We were practicing for the movie, the nurse stuff. She got into a little accident and hurt her shoulder. I just finished giving her a massage. She fell asleep during. Ah! Maggie exclaimed in relief. Get her back to your room. You know what, just let her stay here. I don't want to sleep tonight anyway, so I'm going to go to the living room. Why aren't you sleeping? Maggie asked curiously. Gesturing under my eyes, I said, Colt's character has an eye bags, a really tired face too, so I'm not going to sleep until the shooting starts to get ready. It's called method acting. It's called lunacy. There's makeup for that. Maggie said angrily as she slapped me on my shoulder. I turned my head upward slowly as I stared at her. She flinched and immediately ran away before I could reciprocate. I stood up and walked slowly to get her. "Uncle Ted! Help!" Maggie shouted desperately. After everyone had slept, I stayed by the pool, working on a few of my projects, until the sun rose up. Sunday morning. Today was the last break I could have before 1 month of full filming schedule. My dad, Phil, Luke, Manny, Jay, my grandpa, Uncle Jim, basically all the guys, we went to watch the football match at school today. My dad, Phil, and I went to the bench to meet Cam and the team. Jacob, Tyler, Tyrone, Kyle, and everyone else were excited to see me. Tyler asked, "Are you joining the match today, Ed?" The opposing team is pretty tough to beat. We had never once won against them during my entire time playing. Kyle interjected, "He can't. He has the movie shoot. Nothing can happen to his face. We don't have the money to fix it back again." Everyone burst into laughter, except for Jacob. He was extremely depressed not being able to play with me on the team. I pulled him to the side and whispered to him, "I want to play too. But I contractually cannot. So, you have to play for me too, alright?" His eyes lit up, and then it became a fiery determination. Cam asked me in shock, "What did you say to him? Why is he suddenly filled with a murderous aura?" Jacob stared at the opposing team with his eagle eyes, which made them shudder. I chuckled and said, "Nothing. Cam, I'll help coach." Everyone huddle up. It was a tough match for our team, however, our school won in the end. Finally, we broke the curse of 3 consecutive wins. Cam was pretty elated by it, but his excitement dissipated when everyone attributed the win to my presence rather than his strategies. Everyone on the team went to celebrate together, and I picked up Sage and Mrs. Henderson before returning home. We hung out by the pool before dinner time. Even though I wanted to cook for all of my friends, my grandma decided to kick me out of the kitchen to bond with Frankie. Mrs. Henderson and Sage, for some reason, were implicated by it, and they were all helping in the kitchen. "Ed, why do you look tired?" Enid asked in concern as she paddled the donut float she's on to get to me, who was sitting by the pool. She was in her swimwear and she tied her hair into a ponytail. Jacob and Elsa were giggling and playing in the water together. Method acting. I replied with a smirk before I drank a can of Red Bull. Enid suddenly became dejected and asked, "Ed, if you take the SAT this week, then you won't be at school anymore, right?" Jenna, wearing a one-piece swimsuit, curted and slowly walked towards us. She sat next to me and said, "He's not even in school right now." "Officially, I am still a student there," I replied with a slight guilt in my heart. "But next year, I'm going to start the world tour, so it's kinda hard for me to go to school." "But you'll come by if we ask you to, right?" Enid asked with a pout. I smiled and said, "Sure. I'll come if there's a special event." Enid brightened up and said, "Great. Don't break this promise. I'm going to need you to take me to prom." I promise," I said dismissively, then I kicked the donut float away. Dinner time was quite awkward for my friends given that their teachers were there. I told my grandparents about how Mrs. Henderson and Sage took care of me, which made them instantly being welcomed by the family. During dinner, Vanessa suddenly asked, "Ed, did you pick the song for the movie yet?" I shook my head nervously, gesturing for her not to continue, but my grandmother heard it and interjected, "Oh, Ed, you made a song for the movie?" "She's talking nonsense, Grandma." The cocaine got to her head. I turned to my grandmother and waved my hand dismissively. "Hey!" Vanessa protested in anger. Sage smirked and said, "Why so embarrassed, Edward? Could it be, is it something not appropriate?" "It's appropriate. I just don't want to spoil the mood." I turned to Sage and threatened her with my facial expression. Vanessa thought about it and said in realization, "Oh, yeah. It's definitely not appropriate." My dad smirked and joined in, "Should you break out the guitar and sing it to us? If you haven't picked it yet, we can help you." "Oh, we have already picked it. There's like 5 songs he sampled yesterday." Vanessa took her revenge by making sure I couldn't talk my way out of it. I sighed in defeat and said, "Alright. We'll do it when we finish eating." Liar. He's going to run. Mrs. Henderson suddenly spoke up. Everyone turned to her in a daze, then they looked at me when they realized she was convinced it was going to happen. "Grab him." Enid quickly grabbed my hand before I could stand up from my chair. The plate and silverware clattered as my friends held me down. "Even you, bro?" I looked at Jacob with disbelief. He smiled apologetically and said, "Sorry, I can't go the opposite of the public opinion." Elsa whispered to his ear, "Great job, baby." Damn. He's seduced. The adults laughed at the situation, and Aunt May asked, "What kind of songs is it for Ed?" "It's a parody song. In the movie, he's supposed to be holding the song back from release because it'll ruin his brother's reputation," Vanessa explained. I looked at her with disbelief and said, "You can't even remember your own lines, but you can remember that?" Everyone relocated to the living room with a full belly. I sat with a guitar on top of a wooden chair. I never thought that I would be this nervous sitting in front of people. "Anyway, here's something. I'll start you off light." Enid squealed as she turned to Jenna, "I'm so excited. I want to record this." Jenna said, "No recording." I pointed my finger at her, making her startled. "Just enjoy it with your eyes." "Jenna, don't worry, Robin is always recording, and it's in HD," my dad said to her. I was setting up the beats with Robin before I strummed the guitar. And of course, she was recording the whole thing. "This sample is of Tom Ryder creating his own boy group," I said as the music slowly came in. "Rock My Kiss, super sweet, the boys."
Saw you in my study, oh, that's right.
With a sweet, melting voice, the song immediately attracted Vanessa, Enid, and Jenna.
Now you're at Abercrombie in the mall tonight. I wanna love you just like Brad loves Jen, like Megan Fox, you're my perfect 10.
The song entered the chorus, and the girls swayed along their bodies as they listened.
Just be my favorite girl, then you can rock my world. I never felt like this, baby, rock my kiss.
My grandmother was enjoying the song until the "Can Rock My World" part. She made a praying gesture and held her cross necklace as she continued listening.
Got such a crush on you, make all your dreams come true. Now's my chance, can't miss, baby, rock my kiss, rock my kiss.
Before I continued the song, I turned to the crowd, still strumming the guitar, and asked, "Do you want me to stop or continue?" "Continue." Most of them replied at the same time. I smiled and sang,
Kick off those Uggs and slide up next to me, alright. Got Netflix in my mailbox with some DVDs, alright.
Jenna scoffed, "He still needs to advertise his Netflix business, huh?"
How about dinner, just you and me? You're the girl of my dreams at the Cheesecake Factory. You and me are front page news like Katie Holmes loves cruise. I never felt like this, baby, rock my kiss. My island dream come true, like lost I'm stuck on you. I'll take my chance, won't miss, baby, rock my kiss, rock my kiss.
I stopped strumming and went to Enid, grabbed her hand, and pulled her close to me. I will
be your Edward, be my Bella tonight. I could pull you close, give you a vampire bite.
Enid squealed and her face flushed. "You can bite me, Ed," she shouted as I returned to my seat. Sage shook her head in disbelief at me when she saw it. They applauded me as I finished the song. My Aunt May commented, "You should probably use other examples than Ross and Rachel. Their relationship is not that great." Next one. Enid demanded. "Alright, next up, Mother Lover. I said as I picked up the guitar again. Sage quickly ran towards me and stopped. "Alright, I think you can skip that one." Vanessa shouted, "Ed, sing Nice Guys or SWG, Ryan Higa." Maggie was confused. "You mean SWAG? You know, like swag?" Vanessa shook her head. "No, like sweet wholesome girl." Jenna's eyes lit up and she shouted, "I want to hear that. I want to hear Nice Guys." Amy said, "Let's vote. Who wants to hear Nice Guys? Who wants to hear SWG?" Uncle Jim took charge and made them raise their hands. "Do I get a vote?" I asked with disbelief. "No. Just sing Monkey." Amy teased. Nice Guys won. "Sing that first, then you can sing SWG." Uncle Jim said mischievously. I sighed again and mumbled, "At the very least, Max isn't here. Or else, I'll die from embarrassment." Frankie suddenly pointed to a laptop sitting on the stand next to her and said, "She's been here the whole time." Max was on the screen, laughing until she lost her breath from the first song. Frankie unmuted her and said, "I called her when we left the table." Max couldn't even talk properly as she would burst into laughter. "Bella, laugh, you said you hate Twilight, laugh." "Look. Edward's face is red," Enid pointed out while laughing. I covered my face with my hand and said, "Is this bad karma? Have I done a bad thing recently?" Maggie was extremely satisfied by the performances today. Finally, she got her revenge on me. Elsa commented, "You were the one sampling these for the movies. If anything, you did it to yourself. Sing Nice Guys." Enid demanded again. Everyone was clamoring for me to start, which made me helpless. All right, I said with a grimace. The song is part vocal, part rap. So, enjoy. Ryan Higa, nice guy. YouTuber. I sang with a sweet vocal.
Nice guys finish last, that's why I'll treat you like trash.
Everyone grimaced as they heard the lyrics. Maggie curled her fingers as she cringed, and Amy desperately tried to hold her laughter. Even with a red face, I continued.
Not what I really wanna do, but you only date bad guys, so I'll give you my best try to treat you where you want me to.
Then, I rapped even while strumming the guitar.
I'll never open the door or pull out a chair. You can tell me how your day was, but I don't really care. And if you ever get cold, you'll just have to hack it, 'cause I'd be cold too if I gave you my jacket like.
That's true. My dad commented, which made Frankie turn to him in shock. I agree. My Uncle Jim blurted out, which made him get pinched by Aunt May. The rap continued, like,
Whoa, you ain't sitting up front. Front is for the homies, you can sit in the trunk.
Jacob gestured by hitting his chest 2 times. I pointed in agreement with him slightly, which made the girls there roll their eyes.
Never answer my phone whenever you call it, and when the waiter brings the bill, I never reach for my wallet.
Vanessa mumbled, "Why am I briefly attracted to Ed just now?" Maggie rolled her eyes and said, "How bad a boyfriend Zach can be." Max turned to Frankie and asked, "Isn't that how a date usually went?" Frankie sighed and said, "No, it's not." The chorus repeated,
Nice guys finish last, that's why I'll treat you like trash. It's not what I really want to do, but you only date bad guys, so I'll give it my best try to treat you the way you want me to.
I hesitated for a bit before continuing. Everyone caught it and prepared themselves, most were trying to control their laughter. I rapped abruptly.
And I'ma beat you.
Oh damn. Maggie widened her eyes. As I continued, everyone breathed in relief.
In every competition going out with the girls, you better get my permission. Wait, no, I take that back, you can't go.
Breaking Bad is
That's my favorite show.
again with the advertisement. Jenna commented. I mimicked a girl's voice,
Do I look fat in this dress?
turning it back to normal.
Oh yeah, you do. Wait, let me speak your language. Cows go moo.
Everyone gasped in disbelief and bewilderment. Maggie's and Vanessa's jaw dropped in shock. I lowered my head in embarrassment, letting the beats loop on its own. Everyone desperately tried to hold back their laughter, but then, they failed. I took a deep breath and finally raised my head again.
Nice guys finish last. Why I'll treat you like trash. Now what I really want to do. Oh, you only date bad guys. I'll give it my best try. Treat you the way you want me to.
As I sang the bridge, my embarrassment was finally gone.
But behind the scenes, she means the world to me.
Ah! Jenna and Enid exclaimed at the same time.
I wanna tell her that she's beautiful and show her that she's alone.
Max commented, he ruined it now.
Hold her when she's scared. Tell her how much I care. But that won't win her heart because nice guys finish last. That's why I'll treat you like trash. Now what I really want to do. Oh, you only date bad guys, so I'll give it my best try. Treat you the way you want me to.
Ho.
I turned to Max and said, "Ho." Max gave me a thumbs up and said, he saved it. I'm going to the bathroom, I said before I left the living room. Everyone was still laughing at the performance, and they kept discussing the song lyrics. After I washed my face, I bumped into Mrs. Henderson in front of the door. You have a nice little group right here, right, Edward? She said with a smile. I turned to my family and friends and said, not all of them could be here, but yes. She rubbed my hair and said nothing. I turned to the little group again and smiled softly. An idea started blooming inside my mind as I walked back towards them. Now, I'm just going to sing Mother Lover, The Lonely Island, and end this. My next song resulted in a 2-hour-long lecture from my grandmother. Everyone had to listen to it, not just me. When I came to the movie studio the next day, Pepper was startled to see the prominent eye bag underneath my eyes. Oh, this? My grandmother decided it wasn't enough for me to listen to a 2-hour-long lecture, so she gave a special session, just for me. I said as I pointed at my tired face. Chapter 285, Dragon. Edward POV. As we prepared to shoot the first scene of the film, a team of hairdressers surrounded me as I sat on the makeup chair. One of them touched my hair and said with a Latina accent, "Such beautiful hair. Do we really need to cut them short? It's short in the poster, so we have to." A man in a pink blouse said sympathetically as he held a scissor. I chuckled and said, "You don't need to cut it short. Make it darker, and also, a 7:3 part like I said before." Not middle parting? The curvaceous Latina asked in confusion. The gay man slapped her shoulder lightly and said, "I know what style he wants. Like in your Rolex advertisement, right, Edward?" "Exactly. I'll leave it to you guys," I said as I laid back on the chair. After a short transformation, I entered my character as Colt Seavers. My youthful brown hair was now gone, and it was also straightened a bit. Standing in front of a mirror, I buttoned my blazer as I check out my new image. My straight black hair fell over my forehead, partially hiding my sharp green eyes, which seemed to pop against my green tie. A neatly folded handkerchief peeked from my pocket, and a silver cross hung around my neck. The hair color changes made my eyes seem even more mesmerizing. The hairdressers couldn't stop staring. Pepper, Paige and Judd Apatow crashed into my dressing area, shooing the gawking staff members away. "My God! How did you suddenly age 10 years? Judd exclaimed in shock. With contouring on my cheek, tired eyes, sharp gaze, I immediately entered the realm of the young adults, losing all of my innocent characteristics before. Pepper took his phone and started snapping some pictures while I posed in front of the mirror. Gladys, see if I can get the fake tattoo around my neck too. I need to be more charismatic, menacing. I need to be more menacing. The tattoo artist flinched as I used my deep, bassy voice as I ordered him. Paige was shocked and exclaimed, "Is this an actor's capability? You changed everything about you." It was my first time to use my chameleon acting skill to the fullest. Internally, I was also a bit surprised by the changes, but the skill helped me in managing my facial expressions, keeping me in character at all times. I turned to her and smirked. The new look made me seem quite devilish, which made the girls there feel flushed, including Paige. I stepped towards her, held her chin lightly, and said, "Is this character your type of man? Why are you blushing so hard?" Pepper was elated, right into character Haed. "Come on. Let's take a few official pictures at the set. I can't wait to show this to your dad and my mother." Paige breathed in relief as I released her. She walked to the side and lowered her head as she processed her embarrassment. Vanessa also had her character preparation today. After adding some hair extensions, her hair was curled with a hot iron, transforming it into a voluminous mane. She also had to dye her hair, from black to slightly brownish. It became fluffier and curlier, cascading down and almost reaching her belly button. The dramatic change added a lively flair, perfectly fitting her character's vibrant, kind and loving personality. Her character traits were a stark contrast of mine. The idea of setting her up as my character's love interest was based on the golden retriever girl and black cat boy tropes in anime. Emily Blunt was ready in her character, exuding a sharp gaze that hinted at her inner strength. Her slightly messy dirty blonde hair framed her face, and with only light makeup, she looked like someone who had faced many challenges. The layers of her clothing, sweatpants and running shoes added to her rugged appearance, emphasizing her fortitude and resilience. Lastly, it was Ryan with a youthful and sunny temperament, dressed in navy blue shirt and white trousers and wearing loafers. The movie couldn't really work with only 4 main characters, so there were multiple supporting characters that would appear in the movie. Donald Glover, a writer for 30 Rock, and the future Childish Gambino, was casted as one of my assistants in the movie. An aspiring actress who didn't have any roles yet, 18 years old Margot Robbie, as my other assistant who has a crush on my brother Tom Ryder. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Scarlett Johansson, Emma Stone, Christina Applegate would all be cameo-ing in the movie as Tom Ryder's past lover. They were convinced to appear when Judd told them that all they had to do was to come, beat up Ryan Gosling, and go. All of them were pretty excited to do it, which made Ryan a bit depressed. "Ed, there's a problem." Judd suddenly pulled me aside after I did the photo shoot Pepper wanted. He glanced around and said, "I kinda wanna have an actress for Marissa. I narrowed my eyes a bit in shock before asking, "She's a running joke in the script. I don't think we need someone to play her." Judd explained, "When someone is nominated for an Oscar, they'll show a snippet of his acting performance, right? We have that with Scarlett, but I think we need another one for Tom's breakout performance." "Do you have any ideas?" I asked. "Honestly, not yet." Judd smirked. I rolled my eyes and said, "Me? Yes, you. It's your movie. Like I said before, I'm only here to make your creative vision come true." "Alright, stop," I said with a serious tone. He chuckled sheepishly while I rolled my eyes at him. After thinking about it for a few seconds, I said, "Breakout roles, huh? We already have that Star Wars one. I guess we can make it from D&D. However, it will need CGI, so we'll shoot that first, and Marissa's scenes only if we can manage the short clip. Otherwise, we'll scrap the idea, or put it only on DVDs." "Sounds like a plan," Judd replied. Vanessa intercepted my path as Judd walked away. Holding her fluffy hair, she grumbled, "You know I can't wash my hair for days after this." I chuckled and said, "You look like you haven't washed your hair today." "Ugh." She stomped away in dissatisfaction. In front of the director, she appeared grateful and polite, but in front of me, she always complained incessantly. I was a bit confused by it. Doesn't she know that I was the biggest boss she actually had to appear grateful and polite to? Wait, Vanessa. I called. She turned quickly, which made her hair swat her face, even a few strands entering her mouth. As she spat it out, I chuckled and said, never mind. I just want to see if that will happen. You? As she was pissed, I walked away to get to the set while laughing. Vanessa didn't have any scenes to do today, so she went home after getting fitted for her wardrobe. 20 minutes later, the first scene of the introduction of the main characters, and the deal with the devil-type contracts which forces Tom Ryder to date Emily Blunt's character Jody Moreno, began filming. It took 13 takes to finish the 10-minute scene, which took almost 3 hours. Maggie documented the entire process on her camera for her documentary. She approached me with it after the director went to direct Emily and Ryan. Ed, what are you doing now? She asked. Flipping my notebook, I replied casually, preparing for my SATs. Maggie widened her eyes in surprise. You're doing it right now? I have to study in between takes. I closed the book with one hand and turned to her, so, go bother someone else. Pouting, Maggie grumbled as she walked away. I escaped the film set as they were taking a break and walked to the music studio. On my way there, I unexpectedly met Taylor and Selena in the hallways, right in front of the recording studio's door. This is awkward. Selena joked to break the awkward silence between all of us. Are you going to record the reply song now? Taylor asked with a rushed tone. I smirked and said, unfortunately, no. I'm just here to record the opening song for the movie. Taylor and Selena widened their eyes as they heard my voice. Selena, can you come closer? I asked using a polite tone. Taylor's eyes were affixed on me, which made Selena glance at her a few times warily as she stepped forward. What do you? Before Selena could finish her sentence, I grabbed her face and pressed down the skin on her cheek with my thumb, moving my face closer to her, and began inspecting her eyes. Selena's mind short-circuited as we locked eyes in a very close distance. Taylor fumed and stomped towards us, but halted her steps as I broke off the eye contact and began inspecting Selena's skin instead. You don't feel any bloatedness or anything? Sluggish? Nauseous? You are still taking the pills, right? My hand was still grabbing her wrist as I checked her pulse. Selena stammered as she tried to recollect herself. I'm quite energetic, see? She flexed her muscles, and became deflated immediately after. So, can you stop examining me every time we meet? I released her hand and said, sorry, but there's no way that's going to happen. Selena smiled in exasperation, however, her eyes were filled with affections as she gazed at me. Taylor interjected, which made Selena snap back to reality. Are you checking her lupus? Yes. I replied easily. As long as she's taking the pills, then that's great. You should go to the doctor for a follow-up. I said the last sentence to Selena. She nodded obediently and turned to Taylor. This must be killing you. Taylor exclaimed with a poker face, which made Selena shudder. Taylor suddenly showed her hand towards me. Hey, my hand is hurting too. So give me an examination. Yes, I should give a lot more care to my top income earner for the company. I said as I grabbed Taylor's hand. She seemed surprised by my skin and said bashfully, I'm just playing around. You don't have to do it. No. It's my responsibility to ensure you're in your top condition. So after this, you're going to the doctor and take an X-ray scan, before going to the physical therapist to get another opinion. Dumbfounded, Taylor protested, I'm just playing. It doesn't hurt. See, I wanted to believe you, but this is the company protocol. You don't have a choice. I'll wait for your X-ray scan to be placed on my table this evening. I said with an authoritative tone. Taylor panicked, you're the one who made that protocol. Actually, it's Harvey. If you have a complaint about it, go see her. I said dismissively before entering the recording studio. See you guys later, I waved at them. Selena stopped me and said, hey, can I watch the recording session? I rubbed my chin and said, it's better not. I'm in character right now, but the song is pretty energetic, so I don't want anyone to see me record it. It'll break the character. Taylor scoffed and said, "It is the reply song, isn't it? That's why we can't get in. You would never have the chance. I'll need that doctor's note before I can let you do anything," I said teasingly before entering through the door and locking it behind me. General POV. Taylor and Selena were in a daze after Edward entered the room. Taylor turned to Selena and asked excitedly, "Did you notice that? That he have become incredibly sexy?" Selena muttered with astonishment. Taylor nodded and said, "The tattoos, the black hair, the cross necklace." I almost grabbed his leg and begged him to take me back. Selena brushed her hair behind her ear before she said playfully, "Tay, from now on, we won't be friends anymore. Hot guys like that worth more than our friendship." Taylor wrapped her hand around Selena's shoulder and said cheerily, "What are you saying? We're friends till the end. We're best friends that will always get each other's back." She quickly dragged Selena away from the studio, even though Selena kept turning and wanting to stay. Later that night, when the clock passed midnight, Alexandra Daddario, an aspiring actress with glossy skin, piercing blue eyes, and reddish hair, walked into the company building not accompanied by her agent. Despite her mesmerizing eyes, her gaze seemed a bit lifeless and dull, as if she was forced to be there. She tightened her jacket and made sure to wear long pants as she prepared herself to meet the casting agent who specifically called her agency to offer her a role. "I wore the wrong dress today," she mumbled. "Please, don't be another pervert," Alexandra thought as she went to the reception desk. However, she was a bit surprised to see the company building full of hustle and bustle even when it's midnight. I have an appointment for the casting of Marissa," Alexandra politely told the female receptionist. The receptionist brightened up and said in a friendly manner, "Yes, you're finally here. He's been waiting for you. Get on the middle elevator and take it to the 17th floor. He's waiting for you inside conference room 1. "Who's waiting for me?" Alexandra asked warily. The receptionist showed a fanatical smile and said, "Who else? Our CEO." Alexandra's heart fell as she thought it was another skeevy old man who wanted to have sex with her in exchange for a role. However, she became surprised when the receptionist continued, "Mr. Newgate. Edward Newgate." "Oh." Alexandra relaxed a little, but not completely. Even though she knew about Edward's song and had bought his album, she didn't know about his personality in real life. After taking the elevator, she braced herself as she knocked on the conference room door. "Come in," Edward called. Alexandra opened the door and was taken aback when she saw Edward sitting on the couch, surrounded by books and stacks of work-related documents. Edward smiled as he saw her and greeted her warmly, "Ah, Miss Daddario. You're here. Sorry, I don't have much time, so I'm going to go straight to the point. I wanted to hire you to become a dragon." "Excuse me?" Alexandra widened her eyes in disbelief. Edward smirked, which made her heart throb a little. "For the movie," Edward continued, which made her feel embarrassed as she thought Edward could see through her and knew what she was thinking about. "We're on a really tight schedule, so I'm going to explain to you clearly about the role," Edward said before he stood up and gave a few stacks of papers to Alexandra. The script clearly only contains her part, that's why it's so thin. However, it made Alexandra feel tremendous relief knowing that the role was legit. "You have to be a bit quirky as the dragon. I want the few short minutes of Marissa to be really likable," Ed said as he grabbed a script too. "You can take some time to prepare. I'll also record the entire casting process." Alexandra sat down on the single-seat couch that was facing Edward's 3-seater couch and started reading her role. "It's simple enough," she commented as she was reading the script. "But, I have to wear a horn." She looked at Edward in confusion. Edward smiled softly and said, "It's a different take from the knight saving the princess from the dragon's grasp." The nervous knight made a mistake and accidentally shouted, "Dragon, I'm here to take you to be my wife," rather than "Dragon, I'm here to kill you and make the princess my wife." It's an accidental slip of the tongue. Alexandra broke into a smile and held back her laughter. "It's really a comedy movie, huh?" So, the dragon, feeling flattered that someone finally saw her, turned into a humanoid dragon which is even more beautiful than the princess, and accepted his proposal? That's right. Edward nodded. So why me? Alexandra asked curiously. Her heart was beating quicker the more she saw Edward's face. Edward turned to her and said, "You have a face that suits this kind of fantasy setting, so I thought about you." Ah, her character in the movie and in real life is different. You have to show that you can act out two completely different characters if you want the part. I thought you are suitable for it, but if you don't have the ability, I'm not going to give it to you. I can. Alexandra shouted urgently. It was an official breakout role for her to get into movies. With huge names in the film, director Judd Apatow, Ryan Gosling, Edward Newgate, Vanessa Hudgens, Emily Blunt, even RDJ and Scarlett Johansson cameoing, the opportunity was huge. She did act in supporting roles before, such as Pretty Girl in The Squid and the Whale, a horror movie, but she didn't have any roles that made her stand out. Edward also felt a bit bad because he took the rights to the Percy Jackson movie and cut off her breakout role, so he was trying to make amends. Alexandra kept squirming on her couch, which made Edward feel bothered. He turned to her and asked, "Wouldn't you feel more comfortable if you took off your jacket?" She was taken aback for a bit. This? No, I came here from the club, I guess it's fine. It's quite hot in here. Slowly untying the knot on her jacket, Alexandra took it off only to reveal a blue crop top with a deep cleavage that made her assets prominent. Edward looked at her with disbelief, and Alexandra meekly replied, "I was, clubbing." "You were going to hook up, didn't you?" Edward said with a teasing smile as he propped his head with his hand as he looked at her playfully. Alexandra became abashed and said, "Well, I never expected to receive a casting call so late at night." "Well, sorry that I disturb your little me time." Edward teased again. Alexandra's face became flushed and she giggled, "Don't be sorry. This is better than my me time not." Edward didn't gawk on her body and continued working on his documents, which made Alexandra admire him more. After a while, Alexandra and Edward did some line reading for the role, which she nailed perfectly under Edward's strict guidance. "All right, go to costume fitting. We'll do your scene tomorrow," Edward said. Alexandra brightened up and rushed towards Edward before giving him an abrupt hug. "Thank you," she exclaimed happily. Edward grunted and didn't reciprocate the hug. Alexandra quickly realized that she had crossed the line and pulled herself back in embarrassment. Sorry." She apologized. Edward sighed and said, "Don't worry about it. You can go now. I'll notify the designers. They are on the 14th floor. Thanks." Alexandra quickly ran out of the room. Edward mumbled as she left, "Damn. It's so soft. I hate my teenage hormones." Days passed by, and it's now Thursday. After Taylor dropped her song, the internet and tabloid media have been having a field day with it. Fans were begging to have some context about what happened between Taylor and Edward. Photos of Edward talking, laughing, and joking with Vanessa Hudgens on the filming set became viral on social media. Some anonymous posters also voiced that they had seen Vanessa coming out of Edward's house. They also said that Anonymous 1, Edward and Vanessa shared the same car. Anonymous 2, Edward and Vanessa acted in a movie together. Anonymous 420, Edward and Vanessa ate at the same restaurant with the rest of the cast from the movie. For the Hollywood tabloid media, these posts just meant one thing. Edward was a despicable man, jumping from girls to girls, a future Hollywood playboy in the making. Days passed by, and there were still no comments from Taylor or Edward about the matter. Media hype slowly died down. Just when the fans thought that the matter would be brushed aside, Edward released a video on his Instagram on Wednesday. It was an ASMR video of him cutting firewood at the ranch with no caption other than the date, December 4, 2009, month first cause of U.S. 4th of December, 2009. It would be exactly a week after Taylor released her song. Although the media was speculating what it meant, loyal fans understood it immediately. There would be a special thing happening on that date, presumably a song from his side. Then, the dying embers of the scandal erupted again, becoming an even hotter topic this time, breaching even the Fox News and other mainstream media. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System and Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reincarnated in Marvel as a gamer? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.